Ladies and gentlemen, we are having today a person who, apart from many occupations in life, is also a traveler. He recently has come to travel around the world, and I'm going to ask him about his experiences traveling around the world. So you traveled around the world in 2010?
That's right.
And part of 2011, wasn't it?
Yes.
Okay. Did you did it at a Chelonian pace? Or you were traveling very fast?
It depends what you consider a Chelonian pace. We traveled, let's say, at our own pace.
Right. How long did it take?
We traveled for 14 months. We started in Amsterdam and we finished in Amsterdam.
Right. Do you know any of your friends or relatives who had done a similar thing?
Yes.
Who was that?
I have friends who have traveled for a long period of time, not around the world and not for as long, but I did meet people along the way who were doing a similar trip.
Right. Traveling around the world, I suppose, is something every one of us wants to do. So we want to do it, but we have many excuses for not doing it. When you ask people, why don't you do the same thing? What kind of excuses for not doing it do give them to you?
Well, I do get a lot of different excuses or justifications from different people. So normally people with families will say they have little kids. People with companies will say they have a company, or people with financial obligations will say they cannot go traveling because they have to pay for the mortgage. So those would be the most common reasons.
May we say that it's a question of priorities?
We could say it is a question of priorities, yes.
Mm. So what your priority was when you embarked in such a trip?
Well, I had a double priority. First, the curiosity I had to travel the world, to know the world, to know how it would be to leave everything behind and start traveling. And I also started traveling with my girlfriend, so it was a way to better know her. Would be, you could say we were putting the relationship into a stressful, potentially stressful situation, since we would be seeing each other 24 hours a day for 14 months.
So you saw your partner 24 hours a day for 14 months?
Basically, yes.
And did you fight often with her?
Not physical fights, we did have arguments every now and then, yes. But we took it easy. Also, the trip helps you being relaxed and in a different mood than when you are when you're not traveling.
Some people may think that traveling around the world is going to be very costly. Is it?
It is actually less expensive than staying here.
Less expensive than staying here?
In terms of the money you spend, we spend about 50 euro a day. And that is
per person or the two together?
Per person. No, that's the two together, sorry. And that included everything. So we spent 11,000 euro each in 14 months.
That's unbelievable. So tell me, for instance, you arrived to the capital of Philippines, Manila, one morning.
Mm-hmm.
What would be the cost of sleeping in such a place?
I mean, we didn't go to Manila, but we were in Southeast Asia, the coasts are very similar. You could, I mean, if it's a capital, it could be anywhere between 10 and 15 euro for a double room per night.
And having lunch and dinner?
We liked street food, and street food is between 50 cents and €1 per meal, per person.
Fantastic, extraordinary.
I mean, you can add up, it adds up to not a lot of money for both of us.
So, may we say that the most expensive item was travel costs?
Yes, definitely. Travel cost, and followed closely by accommodation.
So, dear listeners, if you don't travel around the world, it's not because it is very expensive. It's because you have other priorities, as Cesar said. So, I understand that you slept in houses of other travelers who are in a social network called Couchsurfing. Could you explain us something about this?
Yes. Couchsurfing is a network of travelers. I mean, it is a social network. It is also a network of travelers that help each other, not only by providing accommodation, but also by helping them see the city. So the value to us was not only the free accommodation, but that we got to see the places with an insider view.
So you had to be the host first, to be guest later?
Not necessarily. That is the way we did it. So we hosted people for 6 months in Amsterdam, but not necessarily you have to host people first to then be hosted.
What kind of people did you host in Amsterdam? Where they were from?
Well, we hosted a lot of people, but I can tell you a few of the people we hosted. We hosted a Mexican photographer who was attending the wedding of his sister in Belgium. And then we also hosted a Russian couple who were studying Erasmus in Bologna, and they were in the way back to Russia. They were actually from Irkutsk in Siberia. And what's interesting that later during the trip we visited them back in Irkutsk. We attended their wedding. So that would be something that would have been a lot harder to do if we wouldn't have belonged to the network. I mean, to go to Siberia and then attend the wedding of someone is not something you can buy with money.
So you distinguish between a tourist and a traveler, don't you?
You could consider it different, yes. I think there are differences.
So you consider yourself a traveler rather than a tourist?
During the trip I was a traveler rather than a tourist, yes.
Did you at any time have to sleep out in the street?
We did not find that situation. We had close calls, and we also slept in camping tents. I mean, we've slept in all kinds of places, trains and camping tents and Mongolian gears and buses, many buses, and airports and bus stations, but not really under the bridge, so to speak.
Did anybody try to steal from you?
We were lucky, no, we didn't have that. We were quite careful also with where we went. I mean, we had the usual taxi scams. That's one of the things we discovered traveling around the world, is that every country, the taxi drivers always try to scam the travelers. But regardless of the level of development of the country. But besides that and some harmless mini scams, we didn't have any security issues, safety issues.
What did you do to find places to sleep? What was your method to find accommodation the night?
It depended. A lot of times we checked the internet for places that had reviews.
Did you carry a computer?
We did have a computer with us, yes. That would probably have been the heaviest item on our luggage, besides to the photo camera, next to the photo camera. But we would check the internet for reviews, and we'd have a list of the places in the city we were going to that we wanted to check. That we did sometimes, but some other times we just arrived and there's cities where there's usually an area of cheap accommodation, so we just visited a few places until we found the right one.
I suppose you have many places or moments which are worth remembering.
That's right.
Could you tell us of any moment worth memory?
There's a lot of them. One that comes to mind right now is when we climbed the Santa Maria volcano in Guatemala under the full moon, so by night. So we started climbing at night, and we saw the sunrise from the volcano, from the top of the volcano.
Okay, so you did enjoy your trip overall. Do you recommend anyone to do the same thing?
Yes, definitely. I would recommend everyone to quit their jobs and sell their houses right now, and then go traveling, and then go back and see what happens. Just
Thank you very much.
okay.